should I go ahead and get started?
You can wait.
We can wait? All right. I know that we ask you all to bring your own lunch, and I'm familiar with some of the long lines sometimes in the cafeteria. So, nourishment is important. Pediatrics is here? I know they have a walk of. I think they have, some of them may have to walk from the new outpatient center. All right, let's go ahead and get started so we can finish in time. So thank you all for being here. We have these town halls frequently, and the purpose of it really is to hear from you, the audience, and then also give you an update of where we are on the various issues that each of you identified. So just to give you a little bit of a recap, as you remember, we started a resident advisory board really to look at issues that you all encounter day to day that impact your ability to do the work that each of you want to do. I think it's really to make you understand and empower you all that you are the change agents of what happens on the for healthcare, because you are the people with boots on the ground who really touch the patients, are the first contact for patients most of the time, if not all. So I want to thank the members of the Resident Advisory Board because they have brought back feedback from each of you, and then the conversations that you all were very candid about. So to give you an update, the main issues that we were identifying were, there was the issue around food, and I think we actually debriefed about that in the previous meeting, and it was accessibility of food, especially during the times when the cafeteria is closed. If there are still ongoing issues regarding food, please let your department representatives of the Resident Advisory Board know about it, and we will, or you can approach me directly or Ms. Scott, and we will be happy to explore that further. The second issue was around security. There have been some updates, especially regarding the availability of security personnel on site and the number of cameras and access to various areas that allow you to enter the hospital. And we have Chief Hedden here who will give us an update shortly. And the third major issue that we were talking about was how do we really address communication? Timely communication, meaningful communication that is not burdensome but is efficient and gets the job done. So with that, we explored further, and we had a couple of meetings where we outlined a plan, and I'm really grateful for our affiliate partner, Erlanger Hospital. They really embraced the idea and helped us work with the Senior Vice President and the Chief Information Officer and the Senior Process Improvement Consultant, and look at it from a lean process. How do we address this over the system? To give you a little bit more details on that, I'm going to invite Cass Smith, who's going to go over the process. You spoke to your representatives and your program directors. Each of the departments, except one department, provided us with all the information we needed. And then we had a group meeting where we unpacked that in some more detail. We will talk about that today and the next steps. So with that, thank you, Cass, for being here.
All right, good afternoon. Okay. As Dr. Panda said, my name is Cass Smith. I'm a member of the Process Improvement Team. I'm a Senior Process Improvement Consultant, and I've been with Erlanger about 1.5 years. And so our team was approached with the potential project of devising a method to streamline the on-call process for residents. So the problem was that there were many different methods, technologies, devices, systems that are used across different areas. So the project is focused on understanding what those variations are and trying to come up with what the ideal process is as much as possible that can be used across the hospital. So as Dr. Panda mentioned, last Monday at the Resident Advisory Board meeting, we spent the majority of the time talking about the current process. Some templates were sent out to get some information, which I'll discuss in a second. But we went through really quickly, did some introductions, talked about what the project is about, and then we had a report out from a representative from each area or department, a little Q&A, some discussion, and then we talked briefly about next steps. So has everyone received this report out template or seen it before? Yes, okay, so the majority of you have. 8 questions that was sent out. Pam sent it out for me. Getting some basic information to help us guide the discussion during last week's meeting. So what's your department? What's your current process for on-call? What devices or technology are you currently using? What are some advantages, opportunities of your current process? And if you could describe what your ideal process would be, what would that entail, and what devices would that include? What are the objectives of your process, and any additional comments or feedback? So we received feedback by email from many different areas on their current processes and some information on what they wanted in an ideal process. So during that meeting, we asked a representative from each of those areas to come forward, report out on what they had in their template, explain what their current process was. We encouraged the group to have discussion because many people were not aware of what each other's processes were for on-call. So we had a lot of questions that were asked and a lot of information that was shared. In summary, we had many departments that reported out and many that submitted information that may not have been able to attend. But we talked about current processes, and we understand that many different areas are using Tiger Tech, some are using MION, some are using personal devices, pagers, Excel spreadsheets. Is kind of a wide gamut of what's being used currently. We talked about what some opportunities are for those processes that people feel work well and what are some advantages of those as well. So for next steps, this project is in its infancy stage. We don't even have a team yet, so if you are interested in being a member of this project team and you want to contribute to developing what the process will be, please contact Dr. Panda and she will let me know as well who those potential team members are. And then from there, we have a meeting with the project stakeholders, so from the resident side, clinical side, from the IT side, to talk about project team, the project scope, and what support will be needed for this project going forward. Are there any questions or concerns?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Dave Peterson. I'm the Senior Vice President of IT. We brought Cass's group into this to look at the whole, the whole process, because it's just not a technical. People come to me and say, we need a technical solution. We need a technical solution. We need a technical solution, but we have to have a process on top of that in order for it to work. So last week when we were sitting and listening to some of the departments on how you do it, I mean, I was shocked. Being a non-clinician, I don't know how they get hold of you sometimes. I'm really, I come into the ED with a heart attack, I'm real worried right now after your account. But so what we want to do is we want to look at this from a big picture. We could do it on Epic, bring another system in, we could do pagers. So that's why it's very critical to have your input on this, because what always doesn't work for one department, might not work for another. So we have to be very, very careful how we do this. So the goal is to get one system, maybe technical, processes the same, and then spread it out across all the service lines. That's going to take a culture change. We're going to have to be open-minded about that. We're going to have departments that are going to fight us about it, but that's part of changing a culture. And so that's why it's so important for Cass, when she's calling up, she's asking you these questions, we're looking at this, to think outside the box. So for those who've come from other organizations that say, you know what, we're doing it here, I would tell you this has been a concern with healthcare for 100 years. Every place does it differently probably. The Hopkins does it different. UC Davis does it different. Erlanger's going to do it different too. But let's see what we can do for Erlanger. I can't solve world hunger, but maybe I can throw a little bit of food down there to help you guys out. So, Dr. Panda, thanks.
Any questions in general or for Dave and Cass? And again, thank you both, and thank you for really helping us through this process. The next plan that we have is we are going to have a conversation in the next few days and really try to outline the process. We want to be ambitious and get a sort of a pretty quick timeline on this to at least get some ideas and a process in place. So those of you who have had experience, I know at our resident advisory board meeting on the 4th, we had a couple of residents who've worked in different places and have had experience that volunteered their services. But if any other resident would like to be involved, please go ahead and let me know. If not, it'll be the resident advisory board designee from your department who would be on that team. And that's fine too. So are there any other ideas or questions regarding the communication process? Okay, thank you. The issues around security. So I think we have Chief Hedden here. Thank you.
Okay, one of our biggest problems with security here at the hospital is access control. We have 88 perimeter doors that people can enter the hospital through. Those have now been alarmed, and we monitor those doors at 9 o'clock at night. The alarm system cuts on, so we know if there's a door opens or if it's propped open for amount of time. It sends a signal to security, and we can go check those doors. We are in the process of putting in some more access control, some doors to limit the accessibility to the hospital. Right now, you can probably walk into any department, just tailgate in behind somebody with a badge. So it's imperative that we as Erlanger employees be aware of that and be prepared to challenge people that you see that don't belong in the area. I think we had somebody walk into the OR the other day up through the stairwell through an open door, walked right into the OR. So sometimes convenience is our worst enemy. If there's a door that needs to be locked and stayed locked, then it needs to continue to be locked and not open for convenience for people to travel through. We're still in the process of adding some Raptor systems to the hospital. That's the system where everybody checks in and gets the sticker badge pass. Those are limited to a few areas right now. We're working on we're going to have a security officer station on the 4th floor as soon as some availability is made with construction. They'll have a Raptor system up there, and people will have to check in with security before you enter the 4th floor. Just one of our biggest issues is the accessibility to the ICU units. Hopefully this will prohibit people from just wandering through the ICU units and into areas they shouldn't be. We've closed some day rooms, closed the day room outside the MICU, which was a big problem. Too many people in the hallway blocking traffic. So we closed that, and we're also going to close the day room on the 4th floor, ICU waiting room, and an officer posted there. Security is available for escort services to and from your parking areas. If you can call the 7614 number, then give us about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll be able to escort you to and from your vehicle as necessary. And I think that's about it. Anybody got any questions?
Out of curiosity, why don't we have metal detectors in the hospital?
The question was.
Why don't we have metal detectors in the hospital? Those have been addressed numerous times, and they have always been nixed at a higher administrative level than security, and it's probably money, but that has always been a security assessment on the list that has never gotten accomplished. Yeah.
Someone requests an escort, does that officer come to them, or do they go to the officer?
We would come to them at just at a site like out in the turnaround or something like that. We could just a meeting place. In the garage would, any spot in the garage would
So
be
in that
accessible.
conversation, they decide where they're gonna meet.
Right, right.
The few times that I've asked for security to meet me somewhere, they always say, where are you now?
Mhm.
And either they'll come to me or they'll tell me, if you'll go here, I'll meet you there. All of our residents park in the garage.
Basement garage?
The
No.
PGY3 third years and above
Okay.
park in the basement. The others park on the top 2 levels.
Okay,
And medical students park in the garage as well.
okay. So we have either 1 or 2 outside vehicles, depending on what time to, it may take them a few minutes to get there. Our call load for security has increased significantly within the last couple of years. It's almost doubled. Our calls for service have doubled. Our customer service calls have tripled. So we're stretched pretty thin as far as manpower. So there's a lot of areas in the hospital that could use some more coverage, and we're working on that right now also.
Have any of the residents used the escort services? Sorry, Jan.
I was just gonna ask about any surveillance in the garage.
There are a few cameras. That's also on the list to upgrade the cameras. There's like 1 camera on each row, and you pretty much have to be close to the camera to get any video footage. So that is on the list also to upgrade the camera system.
I'd really recommend that if it's really late at night or early wee hours of the morning, that you try to always walk with at least one other person. I know that's not always possible, but if you can, be safe. Think about what your mom would want you to do, and I'll feel better.
Yeah, there's safety in numbers, and then just be aware of your surroundings, who's around and who's watching, and
So, few things. I think the 3 main items that you all had brought up were the possibility of metal detectors, increased surveillance, and then looking at alarms to access within various areas of the hospital. Those 3 still are top on the list, not just for us, but as for Chief Eden say. I would really request residents to start using the escort service, because if we can get feedback, that sort of feedback is going to be helpful for us to give back, and helpful for Chief Eden, whether there is adequate resources or not, and otherwise it's difficult to make change. So use them, and if they don't work, or if they work well, we need that feedback.
most of our occurrences here are crimes of opportunity. So if you present an opportunity, somebody may take it. So just be careful of your surroundings, and walk with a number of people.
And I think we had looked, we are probably going to be doing training in the future. Dr. Keys had offered a service, and Pam, do you want to speak a little bit more about what she mentioned?
She mentioned a speaker talking about safety, focusing on the hospital, but safety in general. And I've told her we can make one of these type sessions available if she can get the speaker for that. I have not heard back from her on that yet.
All right. So we hope to provide that in the probably next HPP session if we can.
The next resident town hall one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give her that day. Okay.
Any other concerns about security or any other areas that have not been brought up? Yes.
In regards to the metal detectors, there's been more than one situation where people have tried to bring either knives or guns to the ICU before. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. It's definitely something that does happen.
It does happen. We have weapons get into the emergency room. Some of the patients are wanded. The psych patients, we have a metal detector wand that we wand psych patients with before we take their property. But yeah, there has been weapons in the emergency room.
Chief
Yes, sir.
Eden, would it help you if when these kind of situations occur, that they send you an email or contact our office or your program director to pass that along? Would that help you get resources?
Sure. Just call the security office. What we'll do is send a guard up to make a report. It goes into our incident report system, and it'll go to like the EOC, Environment of Care Committee, to look at it, and could help to get us the metal detectors that we desperately need.
And I mean, nursing reports us all the time in MICU when we get threats. It's not necessarily the patients, it's the patient's family because, you know, mom or dad is actively dying, there's nothing we can do, or et cetera. And, you know, the patient's family is threatening to come back, and basically security's call, pictures go up of the patient, but, you know, it may not happen in the next week. They may wait and plan and see and things like that. I mean, we've seen this stuff already happen in Chicago at least once, and then there's been a number of other hospitals. I know in Boston, the physician was killed after the surgery went poorly. So,
Right.
I mean, this is an active
Right.
issue.
The last incident in the MICU where a guy did threaten to come back with a weapon and shoot everybody. He's now in jail. So.
We need numbers, and we need, I understand the concern, and I think it seems the right thing to do, and why is it not yet being done? So I think conversations like this really bring that awareness to the top, and we continue to push for it. I'll come back to you. I think we have a comment here.
Yes, I was wondering, over at the Children's Outpatient Center, is there security that's stationed there? If something, I know there's a panic button, but I'm just wondering, when I push that button, how long do I have to wait until someone shows up?
That would depend on where we're at the time. There are no security officers stationed at the Kennedy Center. They were given a couple of different security options and did not choose to take any of those. What we do provide is for the sleep center people that come in from 5 to 7, we'll send a security officer over to help them get inside and get up to the sleep center, and then we'll stay there as long as we can, and then we'll send an officer back at 4:30 in the morning when they're getting dismissed or discharged.
Because I know that, like, in the pods themselves, technically, like, anybody could walk into one of the pods because they don't have any, like, badges or anything where we can slide in. But, like, I mean, it's a staged thing where they could walk through one of the patient's rooms too, so it's hard to kind of keep those things safe. So it's not like you can, like, barricade yourself in the pod. They can just pick a different room and come through, you know. So
Right.
I guess maybe if we just had an idea of, like, just a plan that said, you know, if we had an active shooter, this is what you do in this office. So maybe we could do something like that.
Thank you for bringing that up, and we definitely add that to the list. Soon you have a comment? Yes.
Some of the residents have asked if they could have, as part of their well-being, access to self-defense courses in the area, either through a partnership with the Chattanooga Police Department or with someone that you would trust. And it's both genders, and it's different levels of training that have that.
I know that this is the education session that we are planning is something like that, but is it something ongoing that you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, definitely bring it up.
Something for every new person that could have access to, and then someone, it'd be kind of like what we did in the 80s with self-defense. Since we have a new issue, and some of these outpatient buildings too that waffle around on the administrator having the thing, they don't receive the death threats for the Percocet prescriptions like we do.
No, that's a good point. I think we did talk about it for the onboarding process, but to do something longitudinally, we can look at that.
One of the training officers at the Chattanooga Police Department has a private company that he does self-defense classes for that we could check into.
That'd be good. If you guys would consider access for resources to help with the monetary aspect of that.
Absolutely.
But if he owns a company, he probably, that's the way that he makes money.
Right.
He doesn't just,
Well, that's what I just said. Usually,
Yeah.
you would have to pony up some money for it.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think, so what happens is we report out at the GMEC meeting where we have leadership from the hospital, Mr. Spiegel, Dr. Jackson, and others are there. So we'll definitely raise these at the GME also. Your input, if for those of you that are going to be there at GME, also would be helpful for them to hear it from you. But these items are helpful for us to jot down and add to the GME agenda. Anything else regarding security? We continue to, yes.
When the badges were updated, our individual keypad codes went away.
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
a patient safety concern, so I have been in the operating room, left my badge like on the counter when an emergent situation arose, then went to the ICU where someone was coding, and then didn't have access to that door. Would there be a way for us to get back our individual codes as backup?
Let's bring that up with Baron Peterson and
Right.
others, Pam, and we will have to look into that.
do you know, Chief Evans?
That would be something would have to be discussed with the administration. Baron Peterson does grant the access, but he would have to have approval from somebody higher up.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
told that there couldn't be both, okay, and that's why your PIN code disappeared.
Sure.
Because I have that kind of
Yeah.
badge now
I mean, as a
too.
patient safety concern though, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
I always have my fingers with me,
Yeah.
but sometimes that badge gets left in the
I-
operating
I-
room or
I get what
or
you're
wherever,
saying.
and then if
Okay.
someone is actively having an emergency situation, it might be good to.
So some still have numbers, some don't, it looks like. Is that what you said, Ryan?
Yeah, I was kind of getting at that. They all seem to, they still have the numbers. We can type.
Right, so we need to have a further discussion, you bring up a good point. So what I have currently for security is the possibility of metal detectors, increased surveillance, security at the Kennedy Center, education around self-defense, something longitudinally and resources for that. And if we could have both the individual pins and our badge code. Anything else that I missed that you all raised? We will definitely be working on this and provide any updates. If there's anything else that you can think about, please go ahead and send me an email, and we'll be happy to look into that, okay? Thank you for the input. If there's not, thank you, Chief Henry. Appreciate you coming.
All right, thank you.
And if you can send me the information of that police officer's course, that would be helpful.
Tuesday evening, or we can today, so the quicker that you can get that information to us, if you think of something important to add, the better, okay?
Thank you. All right, just a question for you all. How many of you have students on your teams that write notes for on their patients in the medical record in EPIC? How many of you append the student's note? What do you all do with the student's note?
Essentially, at least on our service, it comes to the faculty here, that we review it and sign off on it. But
So-
it doesn't really have any.
But it doesn't count for progress.
Doesn't count
Like
for
the residents still have to write a note on the
Right.
student's patients.
Okay, so just one at a time. So it comes to the faculty and you sign off on it in family medicine. And you are in pediatrics and,
And so we just pretty much, it'll still go to the faculty, they'll review it and give the medical student feedback, but the resident still has to sign a note on that patient. So if we have a fourth-year medical student who is really following the patient, there still has to be a resident to see that patient, write a note, and sign off on it.
great. And this is the same for third year and fourth year medical students, the process?
Their notes go away after so many weeks in the epic chart.
You're,
I was told the notes disappear by the medical student.
okay, okay. Olivia, you had a,
So for surgery, I think what they're doing is writing them and then printing them out, and then they're being evaluated by upper level residents. And that's obviously just being checked off and.
so they're writing them in the EPIC?
Their handwriting.
Oh, their handwriting.
Yeah, we couldn't find a good way to get feedback from residents or anyone ever was just co-signing. So the best way is that we have them write them out.
So they do no longer write in EPIC? Okay, so surgery, they're not writing in EPIC. Any other feedback from medicine, subspecialties? Yes.
And OB, we sort of stopped having the medical students do notes. I don't know if it's an issue with our faculty, but because of the whole co-signing thing, they basically told them to all stop doing notes. That's been frustrating for us and for the students. Yeah, because our attendings didn't want to sign all these notes, and I guess some of them were like incorrect, or there were concerns about attending signing off on a note where a medical student said something that the attending wouldn't.
So medical students don't write notes at all in OB?
No.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is in OB, medical students don't write notes. In surgery, they handwrite them and they get feedback. In pediatrics, they write a note and the resident writes a note, and you look at the note and the faculty looks at the note. And in family medicine, they go to the faculty. Okay?
There are still other notes that are, quote, official.
So I know in medicine, they come to the faculty. Do they also go to the residents?
We just look at them to like give feedback type of stuff. We never attend those notes. We make our separate notes.
Okay. In medicine or in general? Mm-hmm. Okay. So are medical student notes important? I won't ask the student in the room. So why are they important? They're going to be a resident one day. What else?
They need to learn how to use the interface. They need to learn how to use Epic.
They need to learn how to use Epic. From the faculty standpoint, why are resident notes important? Student notes important. Anything else?
I just think that going through the process and then actually feeling like your notes matter, it puts more of a weight of, not pressure, but like a good pressure of them feeling like their note matters, they need to actually put effort into it, and then they actually learn. So I'm just gonna write this really simple book on it. So I think that effort matters.
Absolutely. Value added for the students, education. Yes, Drew.
Tend to spend the most time with the patient compared to anyone else. So a lot of times the student will bring something to me that I might have even missed on my initial exam when I saw them in the morning. So it's helpful for me.
Wonderful. Do you want to add anything as a student?
As a student, I hate when I feel like I'm in the way.
Hmm.
So if I can write notes that are helpful and do something. I said, as a student, I hate when I'm in the way. So if I can write a note that helps somebody and you can take it over and you can make it official, that makes me feel like I'm doing something worthwhile instead of just being in the way. So I really have liked that. And some people have like copied my note and like copy pasted or just used the HPI, and I get a lot of gratitude from that. It feels good, when an attending uses your words. So I don't know, just saying.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. Yeah. So she matched, and we're going to find out on Friday where exactly. Let's give her a round of applause. Okay, so any other feedback on student notes from faculty? I want to hear from the faculty, please. Yes.
It's very important, very crucial for the medical students to, for us to edit and to give them feedback in their notes, information collection, and then their assessment and plan, especially for the fourth year, because this is a transition for them to be interns. So for us as a faculty, I feel this is a very good area to discuss with the medical students for them as well.
Could there be any sort of inconveniences with the student note, especially from the faculty standpoint? Or that not for you personally, but you may have heard of? Yes.
The only inconvenience is you will get bidder vetting that as long as there's a CMS updated rule that you can use it for billing and Epic configuration and Erlanger doesn't allow it, then it seems like double work.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So any other feedback from faculty? So everybody aware that, till recently we couldn't use the student note for very much, but now CMS changed the rule about a year plus ago. But more importantly, I think it is educational and definitely value added for students, and we are trying to make that a policy at Erlanger and get a standardized policy to how students can document the note in a meaningful way in Epic. With before we move on and talk about some of the things that we have uncovered, wanted to thank Dr. Steve Adams, who is the CMIO for our institution, to speak a little bit towards that process and some of the things that he has seen from his viewpoint and his lens.
Yes, so the original decision on how to implement student notes came down to a couple things. First of all, at the time that we implemented EPIC, you really could not use the student note for a significant amount of billing. The second concern were there were some faculty members who said, students sometimes put things in notes that are disadvantageous to me if I ever get sued, because they may say the patient said they had chest pain, and when I examined them, they said, okay, my elbow hurt. And so if I don't catch that, it could end up with problems in court. So this went to our legal and compliance departments, who decided that the best situation at the time was to make student notes a purely learning activity, where student notes are not part of the legal medical records. Student notes are not released when an attorney requests records or when the patient requests records. So that's where we are today. Now, the rules have changed. The rest of the country is moving towards integrating student notes into the regular documentation. And I think that's where we need to go. So we will be talking to the medical staff leadership and to legal and compliance to make those changes. One of the things that you need to be aware of is there is the ability to hijack the student's note, so to speak. You take ownership of it, and then you've essentially wiped out any well, you can, in the audit trail, know that the student participated in that note, but you can remove their name off of it, you can remove their signature, and we've actually seen that happen with some attendings as well. I've seen a case where one attending went in and attested correctly to a resident's note. A second attending came in the next day and erased his partner's documentation and then put his own documentation, which I don't know how you guys feel. I'd be pretty torqued off. We need to avoid that. So as a part of this change, we will be rolling out some additional education, like don't addend your partner's note and then erase what he said and then bill off of it, because the note he did isn't going to stand up for anything. All right, thanks.
Yeah, that was hard to hear when we first heard about it. I see some of you nodding your head, and I think you heard it was the attending. So I think professionalism should be the bedrock of what we do. So education around that and really building a system that promotes professionalism and avoids things like this is the way we are going to go. But if you see that happening, be empowered to speak up and at least let people know that it's not right to do that. I think it's fraud, basically. So the other thing is students have to log their cases, and they get credit for their work based on the cases that they log. And we're going to do that through EPIC. We're trying to get away from them to try to keep a log of every case they see. It's going to be off the note that they have written, because that's what's going to happen in real life. And if these sort of hijackings occur, then the student doesn't get credit. So you're really putting the student at a disadvantage. So just think about these things mindfully, bringing it up in your faculty meetings, in your resident meetings that you've heard about it, so at least there is awareness and education will be in the process. We are working with compliance and Steve to come up with a policy. I've acquired policies on student documentation from different institutions across the nation. We've looked at them and we've sort of drafted a policy for Erlanger, which we will sort of try to roll out. Our hope was to get it done before May 1st. Because that's when the new academic year for the students starts, but we'll keep you posted around that. And if you have any ideas, do let us know. Any thoughts, any questions on student documentation? Yes, James.
And are we going to bring that policy, I assume, through GMAC?
Oh, yes. Through GMAC, it's got to go through medical executive. It's going to go through all the proper channels. Yes, Victoria.
It would be helpful, at least with the way that surgery's organized, to be able to send those notes to a resident rather than for our attendings to get multiple more notes and notifications and
That sort of feedback would be helpful when we really start implementing it into EPIC. We'll bring it back to the Resident Advisory Board, and then each of your departments can tell us exactly what you want. Thank you. Other thoughts? Anything else on student documentation? All right, talking about professionalism, in general, we were made aware of some professionalism lapses right from faculty to student that was actually escalated to the risk management, and that is being addressed, but I think we really need to talk about it more, working with Dr. Ford, Dr. Court, and others to see what education we can provide around that. But again, just be a little aware of professional behavior and etiquette, especially when dealing with patients and their families and colleagues. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Any other thoughts, comments? We are looking at putting together a faculty development and resident development workshop with the help of Dr. Court and a speaker in September. We will keep you posted, and really it's around education, resident as teachers and faculty as teachers. We will be asking for some input from each of your departments, so be on the lookout for that. So before we move on to the last item, any other resident issues that we need to bring up? What a quiet group. Did I scare you all with the professionalism issue? I didn't mean to. So we've got some good celebrations coming up. 15th is match day, so we will be having it at the Hunter. Overall, UT students have fared well. So thank you all for the education that you all provide, and thank you for making students part of your team. As you all know, that this year the students have nominated one resident and one faculty member from each department that have been recognized for their teaching and contributions to student education. And we want to continue the trend, and we will be recognizing the faculty and residents on the 23rd at the Gold Humanism Honor Society induction. So if the faculty and residents are in the room, please stand. And even if they're not, let's give them all a round of applause. So I see some faculty and residents here. Well, I won't embarrass you all if you don't want to, but congratulations, and thank you all for involving the students. So with that, that's all we had for today. Dr. Ford, Dr. Shack, Pam, do you have anything you would like to say?
Make a mental note of this, it's very important. March 29th, the last Friday, is when we honor our most outstanding graduates for this year, resident graduates. There's 9 nominees of your colleagues who will be honored that morning in here, 8 o'clock. Our keynote speaker for the Alper Award is Dr. Nancy W. Dickey. Dr. Dickey is particularly notable because she was the first woman president of the AMA. Very powerful lady. She was also the chancellor of the Texas A&M Health Science Center. So Dr. Dickey's going to be here. You want to listen to her message. You want to take a minute or two to meet her. And also, she's going to stay on that day and present a program on women in medicine. I'm going to let Dr. Panda give you some details about that.
Thank you. So the event is going to be in the evening of the 29th. We've just finalized the details for it. It's being sponsored by the Chattanooga Hamilton Medical Society, and we will send out an email. I just received notification from Ms. Bond about the event. We got an invite in the mail. Pam, we can email it to all the residency programs. There is a charge for that this year, so I'm hoping that each program would like to sponsor some residents and students to attend the Women in Medicine event with Dr. Dickey. I'm working with Ms. Bond to see if we can get some discount. That's why I'm hesitant to say exactly details, but we'll send you the information in the email. She is a dynamic speaker. I had a conference call with her, and I think you would really enjoy her talk and what she has to say. Yes, it is.
The Alpert dinner is the night before.
Alpert dinner, no, sorry, Alpert Award.
The Thursday evening before the 29th and be on the 28th, there is a dinner for all of the Alpert nominees, the residents who've been nominated from your programs as deserving of the Alpert Humanitarian.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, and that there's no charge. It's just the residents who've been nominated, not spouses. And I'm suddenly drawing a blank. Is it at the Chattanooga, Doctor?
Yes.
Yes.
It is at the Chattanooga, and I'll make sure once we announce everything, we'll get that information to you, the nominees. Then the next morning, on the 29th, we'll be here for the event. We'll hear Dr. Dickey speak. I'm looking forward to that as well. And then at the end of that, we will recognize all the nominees and present the award. We will move upstairs to the boardroom, POB, thank you, conference room, for a reception. That's a good time for the nominees and department leaders to have pictures taken to remember everybody by. And then we're going to turn Dr. Dickey over to Ray Bond and the Medical Society. And the event will be that Friday evening at some point, and I don't know the details.
Yeah, we're working on those details, and we'll get back to you.
But it'll be a really nice day, okay? And I hope that you can make time to be here at 8 that morning. You won't have to pay anything to her that morning, okay? You just come and enjoy.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you all again, because as I mentioned in the beginning, that you all are the change agents. We've come here to this point in 1 year with all the concerns that you all have really brought to our awareness. So keep in communication with us, and as things come up, we will try to address them together. All right, if you don't have anything else, I think we can say meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.